Phil Cooke is next, speaker that CNN journalist Paul Azan said is rare, coming to us from Hollywood with a PhD in theology, right? We're not going to find a lot of those in Hollywood. He's a working producer in Hollywood. He's a well-respected media consultant, written several outstanding books. He's a great friend of Prestonwood, and right now he's setting up all this wonderful technology that we were praying works. Fantastic. Welcome, Phil Cooke.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Can I, guys, you can put me on the screen up there and just leave the PowerPoint up there the whole time. Nobody needs to see me. I'm good. There we go. Cool. Can I show you a TV commercial? This is a TV commercial we produced about, a couple years ago, but I thought you'd get a kick out of it. In fact, if you've ever lost money in a vending machine, you'll probably identify with this commercial.
You're not just gonna walk away and give up.
Stuck.
You can get that. That's yours. Nobody else. Get in there and give it some heat. Give it some heat. Give it some heat. Get in there and you get it. You go in there, baby, and you go get it hard. You get it. You get it. Get it. That's the one right there. You get it. Yes. All right. Yeah, baby.
We produced that for a Canadian football team a couple years ago. And what's interesting to me about the spot is that guy influenced that gal. How many of us have lost money in a vending machine and just walked away, upset, frustrated? But he talked her into flinging her body at that vending machine, and so she got it. Now, I don't recommend you do that at school, at the vending machines, if there are any. But it's amazing how influence impacts people. I constantly will tell people that influence is really your ability to impact other people. Now, on the other hand, we're influenced in ways we don't even see out there. Almost every day, things happen to us that influence our lives that we don't pay attention to. So let me show you this video. It's just kind of an interesting idea. Let me show you this video, and please pay attention because there's a test at the end. Here you go.
This is an awareness test. How many passes does the team in white make?
Go!
The answer is 13. But did you see the moonwalking bear?
Things happen every day that we don't even know, things that influence us in amazing ways. And I want to talk a little bit about that influence because when you graduate from school, you're going to go into a world where you need to influence the culture. I'm always frustrated that Christians don't have more influence out there than we do. I think a lot of it is because we just don't tell our story very well. We're really bad at telling our story. For instance, I saw a church the other day, I saw their sign, and I think what they were trying to do was talk about the pastor's sermon series on hell. But this is the way the sign came out. Do you know what hell is? Come hear our preacher. I don't think that's what they were trying to communicate. And I got a postcard the other day from a nonprofit organization that feeds hungry kids around the world. And I think what they were trying to communicate was that if I donate money to them, even after I'm dead and gone, that money will continue to feed hungry kids. But this is what the postcard said. Mary Ellen died last year. Today she'll feed more than 100 hungry children. Ooh. Ooh. And I found this in a Christian bookstore the other day. I kid you not. I love this. Holy Bible, signed copy. What were they thinking? Abraham, Mark, Jesus? I should have bought it. It would have been worth a lot of money. And one of my favorites is a church that was trying to promote their vacation Bible school program, but I don't think they were thinking about where they put the sign because it came out like this. You know, one of the things I've discovered living in Hollywood is the most influential force on the planet. You know, remember in 9/11 when the planes attacked the World Trade Center and brought it down? Shortly after, the Allies and the U.S. got together and we invaded Afghanistan searching for Osama bin Laden. It was a huge invasion. The interesting thing is, after the invasion was over and the country started to rebuild itself, you know the first public buildings to reopen? They weren't hospitals, they weren't schools, they weren't government buildings. The first public buildings to reopen after the invasion in Afghanistan were movie theaters, mostly showing American movies. So I started wondering, what is it about entertainment that makes it so influential in the world? And what could we learn from the entertainment industry that might make us more influential in the culture? So I started a list about 7 different things, 7 things that I think will help you become more influential out there among your family, among your community, maybe among the culture, maybe even change the world one of these days. So get out your pencil and paper, start making some notes, because these 7 things are absolutely critical. And you know what? I started studying producers and writers and directors in Hollywood, and these are the things I learned that they do, that if we started doing it, maybe we'd have more of an impact for the gospel. Number 1, influencers have ambition. Influencers have ambition. That thing in the picture is the ark from the movie Noah. Remember the movie Noah came out a couple years ago with Russell Crowe? You know, it wasn't a very accurate version of the story in the Bible. It had some Jewish myths from old writings, midrash writings. It had some other cultural myths in there. But the kernel of the story was there. And this was the ark. Actually, Dr. Thornberry and I got to be on the set when they filmed the movie. And the ark was probably the most ambitious set I've ever been on in my whole life. It was amazing. The one thing they got right when they made the movie was the ark, because they went back to the Bible and made it just as the Bible describes. In fact, this is the construction they were doing when they actually built the set. It was a massive, massive set. And it made me realize that in Hollywood, they have ambition. You know what? They believe so much in the power of the Noah story, Paramount Pictures was willing to spend $250 million to produce that story and market it. I have yet to meet a Christian that believes so much in the Noah story that they'd be willing to put up $250 million to tell that story. The world has ambition, and we don't. And yet the Bible is filled with characters. Jabez, Solomon, Nehemiah, Deborah. The Bible's filled with characters who had enormous ambition. But let me tell you something. Here's the difference. Selfish ambition is the desire to do great things for us, for me. But godly ambition is a desire to do great things for the kingdom of God. Jack Graham and the team here, the leadership team at Prestonwood, didn't need to be so ambitious. I mean, look around you. They could have built a much smaller church. They didn't need to have a private school connected to the church. It would have been a lot cheaper and a lot less trouble. But let me tell you something. They had enormous ambition, godly ambition. And we Christians, if we're going to change the world, we need to raise our sights. We need to think bigger, and we need to have more ambition. The second thing is, influencers, I discovered, are ruthless about their time. A couple years ago, Justin Timberlake started a movie called In Time. I don't know if anybody saw it, but the premise of the movie was that when you're born, because of overpopulation in the future, when you're born, you have 25 years to live. In fact, the moment you're born, they engrave a laser clock on your arm that starts ticking from the moment you're born. Everyone knows exactly how much time they have to live. And because they only have 25 years, guess what? They maximize their time. And yet most Christians I meet, you know what? Everything's kind of random. I meet people that tell me they want to write a book one day. Well, I say, what are you writing now? Well, no, one day I'll get around to it. They're never going to write a book. Phil, I want to make a film one day. Well, what are you doing? Are you casting? Are you thinking about it? Are you raising money? No, I'll get around to that one day. We're too random with our time. We don't understand that time is the currency of the world. It's more valuable than money, and until we understand our time and are ruthless about protecting it, we're never going to make an impact. Never going to make an impact. Dreaming is great, but doing is what makes influence happen. The third thing I discovered is influencers establish a creative routine. Let me tell you something. I discovered whether they're coders, scientists, politicians, lawyers, creative people, they are slaves to routine. People that change the world do it every day, and they're really strict about it. Outside of school, do you have a routine? When you think about what you want to do with your life, have you started working on that? Have you started writing every day? One of the things I always recommend to people in Hollywood is figure out that part of your day where you're the most creative and most productive. Some people are morning people. Some are afternoon people. Some are night people. Whatever it is, you need to protect that time and start focusing on the things you want to do with your life during that time. This is, by the way, the Nike Fuel Lab. That's where they design all of their tennis shoes. And those guys are slaves to routine. They know they go in every day and do the work. If you're waiting for inspiration to hit you, it's never going to come. I've discovered that when you go to work, inspiration comes. In fact, artist Chuck Close had a great quote. He said, "Inspiration is for amateurs. Professionals show up and do the work." I tell writers very often that creativity is the art of connecting the seat of your pants to the seat of a chair. Don't wait for inspiration. Make inspiration happen. In fact, let me give you something to do. When you go home tonight, take a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle. On the left side of that paper, list the 5 things you feel like God's called you to do with your life. Start a church, make a movie, write a book, find the cure for cancer, whatever it is, list those 5 things. And then on the right side, outside of school, list the 5 things you spend most of your time doing. I'll bet you $1 they don't match up. They don't match up. You need to be doing something every day that focuses you toward what you want to do with your life. It's incredibly, incredibly important. Get that routine worked out. Number 4, I discovered influencers that change the world have a real skill. I meet Christians all the time that, and I ask them, what are you good at doing? What are you really good at? Oh, I don't know. I never thought about it. What? Met a guy the other day. I said, what are you good at doing? Well, I really like people. Well, that's great, but it's not a job. I don't hire people who like people. Hopefully they will like people, but I want video editors. I want producers. I want writers. You need to be thinking now about what that skill is that's marketable, because that's going to be the doorway that helps you develop influence out there. Whatever that might be, start thinking now about what that skill is. Met a guy the other day. I said, what are you good at? He said, I'm a catalyst. Who's paying for catalysts? I don't know. That's another conversation. Number 5, I discovered influencers take responsibility. Influencers take responsibility. I think a big part of what's wrong with our culture today is nobody takes responsibility. People are too quick to blame everybody else. I'm going to tell you something. The sooner you take responsibility for your life, the quicker you're going to move to the next level in your life. And I'll tell you this, even bad things that happen to you. Sure, I had bad parents, I got beat up when I was a kid, or my coach doesn't treat me right. Let me tell you something. Stop complaining about it, own it, and move forward. I know people that have spent most of their life complaining about their past, and that is never going to open the door to their future. I met a guy at Starbucks the other day. I was standing in line. He tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, you're Phil Cooke, right?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Man, I've read your books. I've heard you talk. I just wanted to introduce myself." I said, "Well, what do you do?" And he said, "Well, I'm a film director." And I was a little skeptical, but I said, "Tell me the films you've done." He named me 3 or 4 movies that he directed, and I knew them all. I was impressed, and I said, "Well, that's awesome. What project are you working on now?" And he said, "Well, honestly, I'm managing an apartment complex." I thought, whoa, how do you go from directing 3 or 4 major movies to managing an apartment complex? And he said, well, he started a list of things that had gone wrong in his career. Well, the studio took advantage of me. The writer on the last project didn't turn in a good script. The actors on my last movie, they could have done a better job. And as he was going down the list, I realized he's never going to make another movie ever again. Because never did he say, you know what the truth is, Phil? I didn't deliver the last movie as good as I should have. I was late delivering it, or my actors weren't as good as they could have been. It's my fault, my responsibility. Never did he take responsibility, which tells me he's probably going to never make another movie again. The 6th thing I discovered about influencers is they know how to focus. One of my close friends is a comic book artist. And let me tell you something. When he works, he turns off the radio, he turns off his phone, he's not texting people, he doesn't have the TV on, he gets by himself, and he makes a lot of money because he knows how to focus. And yet, how many of us do our homework at night with the television on, or we're texting a friend, or we got the radio on, or we got our Apple Music going? When I wrote my book, One Big Thing, I went over a ton of studies on multitasking, because we all think we're geniuses at multitasking, right? Sure, Phil, I can do 9 things at once. I'm awesome. But I read all the studies on multitasking. You know what I found out? There's not one single study that says multitasking helps. In fact, there's no such thing as multitasking. We're actually switching from one thing to another incredibly quickly and doing it badly. In fact, the most recent study I read said that when we're multitasking, it lowers our IQ to the same level as if we were smoking pot. So remember that next time you're preparing that report for school and you're texting your friend and you're talking to a buddy and you got the TV on and you got other stuff happening. It's not going to be good. Learn to focus. In fact, I'll tell you this. iPhones, mobile devices are a huge issue. They're becoming such a distraction. If you go on Google or YouTube, you can find tons of videos of people falling into ditches, falling into fountains, getting hit by cars because they're all staring at their phone. I have a friend, I was at an office building the other day, went over to get to the elevator, and there was a printed out sign somebody had taped above the buttons that said, make sure the elevator is in position before you walk in. I thought it was a joke, so I took a picture of it and put it on my Facebook page. A high school friend of mine texted me and said, no, that's real. She said a friend of hers 2 years earlier was leaving work, was texting a friend. When the elevator doors opened, she walked in, and there was no car there. She fell 7 stories to her death. That's how distracted mobile devices could be. In fact, some cities in Europe are experimenting with padded utility poles. So many people are walking into them. In fact, let me show you this. This is a security camera from a subway station in Paris. Now, see that guy? Where is he up there? Oh, my little button's not working. There's a guy in the middle. He's looking at his phone. You can kind of see him there. Now, watch what happens. Walks right off the platform. And the train's coming. They try to get him out of there. Fortunately, he got the train stopped. And they got him out. Is that amazing? Walked right off a subway platform. Let me give you the last thing. Number 7. I discovered that influencers know one important thing. Age does not matter. Last month, Variety magazine, which is the magazine of the entertainment industry, came out with an interesting study. We have in Hollywood what we call Q scores. Q scores are research based on how popular certain celebrities are. So you want to see what George Clooney's Q score is? Studios use it because before they spend millions of dollars to make a movie with Will Smith or someone else, they want to know that he's got a high Q score. They want to know how popular he is so the movie will be successful. Well, guess what? Variety released the latest Q scores, and what's interesting is every year they've been populated by TV stars and movie stars. This year, if you could see up there, the first 6 positions, the blue dots, are all YouTube stars and gamers, all in their teens and their 20s. The 6 most influential people in the entertainment industry in the world are teenagers or 20-somethings who are making their programs in their parents' basement or in a spare bedroom. The most influential people in the world now are you. Then number 7 is Bruno Mars, number 8 is Taylor Swift, then there's 3 more blue YouTubers on there, and then it goes to Morgan Freeman, Jim Carrey, it goes on down. Out of the top 20 positions, 10 of them are YouTube people or gamers. People that literally make their program. I have a friend who's one of the most popular YouTube stars, Michelle Phan. She's a makeup artist. She's 20-something. She does a show in her spare bedroom. She's got 4.5 million subscribers to her YouTube channel. She flies around in private jets. One gamer, in fact, the number 2 guy in the number 2 position just bought a $4.5 million home in in the Hollywood Hills just because of the number of people that watch him play video games. Don't wait to have influence. You can have it right now. So let's look at the top 7 things. Number 1, influencers have ambition. Number 2, they're ruthless about their time. They take time seriously. Number 3, they've established a routine. Don't wait for inspiration. Start working now. Number 4, they developed a real authentic skill. They're good at writing. They're good at directing. They're good at coding. Whatever it is, they're good at it. Number 5, they take responsibility. They don't blame other people. They don't kick off the responsibility to somebody else. They take it on themselves. Number 6, they know how to focus. They know how to turn things off and focus on what they're doing at that moment. That's why what they do is so extraordinary. And number 7, they know that age does not matter. You right now can have enormous influence in the culture if you take it seriously. If you start doing these 7 things, I've discovered they can transform your life, which indeed could transform the culture around you. Now, can I show you one last little video before I go? This is a little effort at trying to influence the culture that we're doing. Anybody ever heard of the worship band Hillsong United? We decided to follow them around on their world tour, and we produced a feature film about it, and it's going to go in theaters this spring, hopefully, and we're booked in about 3,000 theaters nationwide, so it'll definitely be here, but I thought I might show you a little trailer from what we've been working on and see what you think. Should come out in about 3 or 4 months, I'm hoping, so it'll be here soon.
The only thing that matters about our story is everything that we do represents the heart of God.
There was this underground movement. We'd do these events and there'd be thousands turning up.
If God's hand is on something, people are going to be where he is.
When I walked into Hillsong, I knew my life was different.
When I started a church, I wanted to have a church that wrote songs that influenced the way people worship.
Back in the early days, our focus was our city, and then there was this beyond factor.
Where has Daddy been?
In America.
I believe that God created music for the sole purpose to connect the human heart, our soul, with heaven.
I want to create something that's going to help people.
Being a producer, you're supposed to bring the best out of people. It's hard to be that character when I'm feeling a bit lost. They ran a bunch of tests and they said he's got 2 holes in his heart. I mean, we felt pretty helpless.
You could feel the force of people praying around the world for Elliot.
Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders.
Music has always been something that connects me to God straight away. And I realize, who am I to lead these people? I'm just a country girl.
Just sing the melody for me for a second. The challenge is to write a new record. I really want to hear what God wants to say. Time to listen, time to breathe, time to clear out all the noise. I really want to hear from heaven.
I love these words, I love this music.
The music is like nothing I've ever heard. And I just felt this hard shell around my heart just begin to crack open.
Does everything make sense? Absolutely not. But I think more stuff doesn't make sense without him.
Hopefully, I'll be here in a few months. Thank you for letting me talk.